I'm making this video as an introduction so that you'll have a better understanding of who I am and what it is I think. What it is not is a complete story of me, just a few answers to a few questions. I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord and that He died for the remissions of our sins. There's no question about that, and there's no reason to question that. You might think that based on some of the posts I have made, but that's not really true. You got to dig deeper into what I'm saying. And no, I'm really not condemning the church whatsoever. I do use it as an example, but it's more about us than it is about the actual church itself. There are some issues I have with the church as a whole. There is some issues I have with doctrine as a whole, but that's a whole other issue. And no, I had some posts about praise music, praise, what we call worship commonly. I don't say in and of itself that it's bad, but more so what I try to say about worship services, praise music, is that we have to check ourselves. Why do I need this? Why does it make a difference? And I have a theory that the generation called the silent generation, the ones born after the World War II generations, there's a little chunk of people there prior to the baby boomers, that group of people beyond, music played an integral part in their life throughout the 50s and into the 60s. It became a very central part of people's lives every day, very meaningful to them. And we see that evolution in churches too. You go back in time when there were churches that didn't even have organs or pianos, they just sang hymns without it. And then of course we had churches that actually did have pianos and organs, and they would accompany the singing or guide the singing. But we start seeing an evolution in where an acoustic guitar is added into the church, and then maybe two acoustic guitars later, and then eventually those acoustic guitars turn into electric guitars that are amplified, and now there's microphones, and the music is getting louder, and then the drums are added, and then more pieces are added as we go through the decades into the 60s, 70s. And what we see is an evolution in praise music to a point of being more like a rock concert. I mean, today you go to some churches and they look like amphitheaters, they look like theaters, and lots of lighting, lots of wonderful stuff, in order to make it more with a pizzazz. And we have to ask ourselves, am I going for a rock concert? Is that really what I'm going for? Or am I going to worship God? So what is it I'm exactly saying? The building, the pastor, programs, Sunday school, children's programs, men's ministry, women's ministry, donuts, coffee, those are all niceties. Those are all things of the flesh, not of the spirit. Why are we going to church? Is it because they offer these things? I often ask this question lately on Facebook, to which nobody actually answers, except for a few. If there was a teacher and he was holding a sermon in the middle of a field, and you had to go there and sit on the ground, there wasn't any shade over your head, there was no music, there were no ushers, there were no donuts, no coffee, none of those things are available, just the teacher and the sermon. Now, of course, we'd have to say it'd have to be a great sermon, and of course what I'm talking about is when Jesus spoke to groups of people outdoors. That's all there was. That's all there was. Even when he spoke to people indoors, there were no niceties. You'd go to a synagogue and to hear Jesus read from the scriptures, there wasn't any coffee, donuts. There were chairs and there was a roof over your head, but there was no other comforts, creature comforts. And we have just evolved into this need to have all these exterior things around us. And what I'm saying to people, especially people who've been in the church for decades and perhaps their lifetime, where only 80 to 90% of the people do nothing but attend church on Sundays, I understand that people will go to church on Wednesdays and they'll participate in groups and stuff, but that's also part of the attractant, right? The fact that there is a men's Bible study or a women's Bible study and things like that. These are things that attract you to it. And it's all good. I'm not speaking against those items. What I'm speaking against is our need for them, because they're external. They're of the flesh. And what we need to be is of the spirit. And that's what I'm asking people to consider, is like, why do I need this? Worship isn't just 2 hours on Sunday. It's not even Sunday. Worship is 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's not even that, it's more. It's every single minute of every single day. How you live your life, how you treat other people, every single day, every minute of that day. It's how you worship God. Are you willing to make those sacrifices? And this is what I'm talking about. And so I hope that you wouldn't just take my word for it, that you wouldn't just read my posts. I would actually ask that you dig into the Bible, read it for yourself, read it in context, and stop listening to people and start listening to the Spirit first and foremost. Well, that's what the way is about, and I would invite you to that Facebook page and invite you to post and disagree with me. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you, and I hope you found this somewhat elucidating.